The first battle of the American Revolution was fought in Massachusetts in 1775, but before we get to the first battle, we have to start with the first shots. It is a cold April morning, and British soldiers are marching from Boston to Concord to seize colonial military supplies. They are accompanied by a crew of local African-American slaves who are forced to guide them through the wilderness. As they approach Lexington, they're met by a small group of colonial militiamen. Someone fires a shot. We don't know who, but it's the first shot of the American Revolution. And then more shots are fired and 8 British soldiers are dead. The British keep marching to Concord, where they find even more colonial militia blocking their way. Once again, shots are fired and 8 more British soldiers are dead. In total, 8 Americans were killed in these 2 engagements. Now, wait a minute. You might be thinking that this doesn't sound like much of a battle, and you'd be right. These weren't meant to be decisive battles, just small brushes between colonial militias and British troops. But why did they happen? Well, ever since the French and Indian War, things have been tense between the colonies and the British. As the war's hero, George Washington has been leading a colonial militia in the Ohio Valley. He's hoping to drive the British out of North America once and for all. But the British don't want to give up their hard-won territory, so they send troops to take over the forts that the colonists have seized. As the British move into Lexington, word gets out that the militia is planning to resist. That's why when the British soldiers arrive in Lexington, they're met with a small group of colonial militiamen. The 2 sides exchange shots and 8 British soldiers are dead, but it gets worse for the British. As they keep marching to Concord, more and more colonial militia members join the fray, and soon they're being attacked from all sides. The British are outnumbered and they're forced to retreat. In total, 8 Americans were killed in these 2 battles, but that doesn't tell the whole story. While the colonial militia was able to hold off the British, they weren't able to defeat them. And that's because the British had one major advantage: military experience. The American militia was made up of farmers, blacksmiths, and shopkeepers, while the British had soldiers who had fought in the French and Indian War. Still, the battles at Lexington and Concord were a major turning point in the war. They inspired the rest of the colonies to rise up against the British, and they showed the British that they could rely on military force to keep the colonies under control. That's why the battles at Lexington and Concord are called the shot heard round the world. It wasn't just a small skirmish between a few hundred men. It was the start of a revolution that would change the course of history. Alright, now check out the second battle of the American Revolution, or watch this other video instead.